Okay, well, I spent a lot of time in India and Japan and all different places, traveling everywhere, and always been interested in the esoteric and interested in any kind of comparative religion, anything like that. And especially with the tarot, I started off with the ordinary playing cards whenever I was very young. My grandmother, I had a grandmother who was a Methodist, and she didn't really allow playing cards in the house, so I was always kind of, wondering. She allowed old maid cards, playing old maid, but she didn't allow the actual playing cards. So, but she had a curiosity about, her future, and we used to go to Bundoran in Ireland, and she used to go in to see a woman called Mrs. Heron. And Mrs. Heron, it was a whole gypsy thing, the Romany camps, and they had all kinds of amusements there, where they spin you too hard on those things, going around, the boys climbing on the back. And anyway, she used to go and have her cards read, just the ordinary playing cards, and I would stand outside. I wasn't allowed in. But I could see through the curtain, and I could see how Mrs. Heron was putting cards together, and she had the ordinary playing cards. And I'm just going to show you something. And I started using it with the ordinary playing cards. Then eventually I learned about the tarot, and decided I would use the same method for reading cards. And so, if you take, say, 6 cards, and you have the first card, this is the hidden self, so you put the hidden self like that, so you're going to reveal what's going to happen. And then and then she would put this situation on top. These are upside down. And then the balance of that situation. And then I'll just show you how they used to weave them. I'm sorry about this, I might have to go around here. Hold on. These are a bit slippery because they're brand new. So, but she put them like this. Let's just see. There we are. I'm getting it. There are 6 cards. So it's the self, the situation, the cause of the situation, and the effect of it. And the cards sit together. I'm not sure actually whether I can get it here. Sorry about this.
It's because they're brand new, as you say, it's just lamination,
I'm getting it. So it's held together like this, and then you pull it, you see?
Yeah.
That's the way it is. So then this would be the cause of the situation itself, the self in the situation. And then the balance of the situation, and then this is the possible outcome. And then, but you can actually build upon that as a mandala, and do the next lot and the next lot and so on. It's actually in my book, so you can see it in the book. And it'll show you how to do the cards. So this is so that would be the past, the present, and then the possible future. And that's just with 6 cards. So anyway, this one here, this is Shiva. I'll show you when I came across the Vedic, and all the Vedas, which means, Veda means knowledge. It also means accomplishment. So anything that was done in the Vedic times was all to do with accomplishment, how to accomplish things. And then, of course, I came across the Brahma Kumaris, and they had talked about 8, these here, see, I'll show you. So I put it out like this.
If I hold it for you.
Usually you have the full on the top, and then 7 cards, 7 cards and 7 cards. But I've got 8 cards, 8 and 8. So this here is the supreme, or the ancestral soul. then the first traveler. So these are the archetypes of the soul. So this is the first traveler, which is the equivalent to the fool who comes in, who's like a master magician. And so he's the master of the divine soul world. So that's one of the actual archetypes that we can use. Then you have the Magus, who's the master of elements. So that's and it's the key of harmony, and the path is for sustainment. And I've chosen Vishnu for this one. Then I've had Durga as the Maga. She's the actual mistress of hidden laws. So that's to do with the key of remembrance, and also all these secrets of agriculture and anything to do with...
Just turn it so that people
yeah.
just see it on this side,
Yeah,
so that we're in the way. There we go.
Right.
Like another hand to help hold that.
Yes.
Do that.
And then this here, this is the Empress. And the Empress I chose is Saraswati, so she's the mother of formations. And it's the key of creation and creative energy, so anything to do with the creative mind. So that's one of the archetypes that we use. The other one is the Emperor, and I've chosen Brahma actually as the Emperor, the master of all knowledge. The key is truth, and the path is for authority or protection, is actually teaching, you know. Then the Hierophant, who's between the material world and the spiritual world, I have him as the master of divinity, and I've used Ganesha there because Ganesha is the remover of obstacles. And I also have Shiva behind, or sometimes Vishnu, you know, sustaining. And so this is the key of detachment. It's going into the flying stage for yoga, for example, or for meditation. And then the Lovers, which is Lakshmi and Narayan, and they are the master instruments, the key of love and expansion, and the path is service, so it's service. And then the Charioteer, and the Charioteer is very interesting to me. I have, this is my original, this is the original drawing actually that I had for the Charioteer, or the Chariot, they call it the Chariot. But the Charioteer, that, strangely enough, has to do with, he's a master of destiny, the key of senses and observance, and it's remote viewing and also channeling. So the chariot itself, there's the driver of the chariot, and then the chariot itself can contain someone else, you know, so it's a way of actually using channeling. So this here is, and it's also to do with the seven senses. In Ireland they had seven senses. In the Vedas they had the seven senses as well. They were known as the seven horses that pull the chariot. And so you have the first horses, of course, which are sight, hearing, touch, you know, all your senses that you usually have. My mother said there was another one called nonsense. But I think she's right. And then there were two horses behind, and they were the only ones that could actually topple the chariot. And the two loose horses that were behind the chariot were speech and intuition. So if we say the wrong things to someone, or we do something, you know, with speech that can actually interfere with our own lives and toss our chariot, you know, make us sort of a bit wobbly for a while. Or if we don't listen to our intuition and maybe misread the intuition, and then that can actually toss the chariot a bit as well. So it's really important to have the intuition and speech. And they said that speech and intuition were actually two senses, you know, that we use.
And they're also the same in the poems of Taliesin.
Oh, okay.
He talks of the seven senses, and they also are speech and intuition.
Oh, really? Oh, that's really interesting then. That's good to know that as well. So my mother was right. She always told me there were more senses than just 5 senses. So you can have a look at that if you like. The other thing about Shiva, because this here is Shiva Shankara, the interesting thing is that they have Brahma as a kind of creator, Vishnu the one who sustains life, and then they had Shankara who was the destroyer. But in actual fact, Shankara in the if you go into the Sanskrit, Hara means it's something completely different. It's the dispeller of doubt. It's not actually destroying, it's the dispeller of doubt. So, and the dispeller of doubt, of course, is faith. If you have faith and belief in yourself and faith and belief, then you actually dispel doubt. So that's that. Then this is so those are the archetypes that we can call upon. These are the powers of the soul. And in the powers of the soul they had 8 powers. So the first one is the Ashvata tree. I have 2 extra cards here, as you see, but I didn't want to change the numerology of these ancient cards. So I have these coming under the 0. This is the fool, you see, who would normally be on the top. So that's a 0. So this is 0 minus 8, rather than making it a negative. So. And it's to do with the actual tree of life, or the tree. You see the tree everywhere, And then the Oogenesis here is the actual seed of life, or the Hiranic Arbor, which is the universal cosmic embryo, And it's the quickening. It's actually to do with rebirth. So it's not just birth, it's actually rebirth as well. So on the middle ones here were the actual powers of the soul. So this is the power of tolerance and love, and it has the Ashvata tree there. The Ashvata tree was a cosmic tree that actually stretched from the northern Polaris down to the southern Polaris, and it's to do with Shiva. So Shiva's drum, I don't know if you know those little drums, that used to, you have the 2 little tags on the drums.
It's like an
like
this sign. Yeah.
Well, recently, I just found these recently, so I was really happy about it. In the Crab Nebula, in the southern Polaris, they have this, which came up like the Shiva's drum, even with the little things on the side, This was actually taken by the Hubble telescope. So that's another one. And this is the little drum that just sort of hold like this, and it has the little things on it. That's the image taken by NASA's Hubble telescope. And I can pass these around so you can have a look at them. Apparently there was something else that they said the brain is estimated to have over 100 billion neurons, which is about the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. So that's our inner universe. So you can have a look at those. So one of them this is the Ashvata. It's the power of tolerance and love. This is the soul power to assess or judge, which is justice. So, and it's interesting because when you lay them out like this, you have the megas here and the Diaphol here, or what they call the sort of the light magician and the dark magician. And so this is actually coming into the material world, the more gross material world. And in between is justice, which keeps the balance. And Varuna was the one who was justice. So it's the soul power to assess and judge. The key is balance and control. And the path is the path of truth or stillness, trying to keep things, when there's chaos, to try and keep order with stillness. Then in this one here you have the Masters of Hidden Laws. This was Durga, or the High Priestess, if you like, in the thing, and the Tower here. And in between you have the power to withdraw, and it's the Hermit. And the power to withdraw, the key is invisibility. And the path is meditation, or the saint, or the path of the shaman, the path of the rishis. You know, the rishis in the Vedas, they were the poetry writers, the muses, you know. And so I used the hermit for that. And I've got a tortoise there, because if things are not going too well, or if you see something that's bursting out, you know, then you don't really want to be in that particular area, then you can just sort of withdraw your head, or withdraw by just putting your head back, you know. But in a real situation where there's danger, then you have hibernation. So, so that's why I use the tortoise for that. Then this here is the wheel of karma. This is soul power to cooperate. So these are all powers that we have within our soul. So this is the power to withdraw, and this is the power to cooperate. So it's in the cycle of time. Everything is moving, everything. And so sometimes to get things done, it's easier to cooperate rather than have to try and do things yourself. The path is the great work, when people can all work together. And it's all about cause and consequence, because the wheel, I call it the wheel of karma. It's really the wheel of fortune, but karma is there, you know, so it's cause and effect. So whatever we do, you know, we have an effect from that cause, no matter whether it's in this life or the next life. Then you have strength. I've put strength here. In the very old cards you had justice here and strength here. And the newer cards, I think they have them differently, you know. So the strength here, I've used Madurga, which is the soul power to face. So that's having the power to face things. And having the power to face things is a challenge. So any kind of challenges that we have in life, then we have to have the power to face them. And the path is the warrior, the Shakti. So the warrior, it's having the power to face something and make changes, you know. So it's like for example, one of the images that the Brahmins had was, you have even just one tiny bit of flame will turn the lion away. You know, so even if you just light one bit. So if you have enough light within you, you can turn things away. So then this one here is the hanging man, and this was I have him hanging here. This is the earth here. And then I have they say the hanged man, but I thought the hanging man. So I have him hanging. But if you turn him upside down like this, he's in the tree pose, and the serpent is the kundalini, you know, so it's all to do with yoga and the chakras. The curious thing is that the Ashvata tree, as I said before, goes between the North Polaris star and the southern one. So that's a hanging man. Upright, you can have a look at that. Then we have changes, which is really, I suppose, what they call the death card. But it just means changes or major changes. It doesn't necessarily mean death when you're doing a tarot reading either. There are two other cards that are sort of more to do with that. So this is changes, and Yama is the one who I've chosen for that. And that's the, are you okay?
Oh yeah.
That's the soul power to discriminate and discern. And, oh no, this is that's the hanging man. In the changes, the soul power is to pack up. So if you have something like an addiction or something, to be able to pack up, or to be able to shapeshift, you know, to change your personality, change your way of life. Or, you know, if it's a case of where there really is the death of someone, then it's the journey onwards. And Yama is supposed to look after the unborn and the undying. So this is Yama. then it goes into temperance. And temperance I love because I've used Usha's. Usha's the goddess of the dawn, and so she brings the dawn in, and I find that that card actually meant something to me, because when Robin passed, I was looking and I suddenly realized that this actually is a widow or a widower's card. So it's a soul power to adapt. It means a soul power to adapt. So it means and it means acceptance as well. So the actual key is acceptance, and it's adapting to a situation. So adapting, it's not just the person who's left behind who's adapting to a situation of loss. It's also the soul on its way adapting to a new situation, whether it's going to rebirth or whatever, so and Usha is the one who carries the sun through the night, for the dawn, and she has her sister is the night, and she has 3 other sisters apparently who are, and I don't know their names because I can't remember the Sanskrit for the names, but they are the dawn, dusk and twilight and the night. So those are the 4. Then the bottom line, which I have, this is just the major arcana. So in the major arcana I have the bottom line here. This is the rebirth, coming into birth, being chained to the material world. This is gravity. So gravity has pulled us down into the material world. In this one here, where you see where Shiva is doing the dance, he's actually stamping on Natajara. Natajara is ignorance, and Shiva realized that divine knowledge could not exist without ignorance. But it had to be quelled, so that it wouldn't spoil the divine knowledge. So here we have, this here is Ravana. Shiva pacifies Ravana. And this is actually the material world where we've come in. So the key is attachment and restrainment, and the path is gravity and endurance, and the power is magnetism. It's allure, mirth, the vices, seductive. It's the world. And then coming out of that, because this is the path to enlightenment. You see, so the next one is the tower, which is the Atta or the Ataka. This is the where we've built all the conditioning around us, and then wanting to find original thought or original inspiration. And so it's a part of destroying the walls around us and also reconstructing ourselves, So it's the breaking the walls of illusion. So everything that we learn, we have to try and find what is the truth from illusion. And the soul power is spiritual language or awakening, So we come out of the tower, awaken. There's a lightning flash comes into the tower. Then here is a flash of inspiration. And this is the star, and this is recognition of the soul. So it's the key is concealing and revealing. So little by little we learn about our souls. Just as the stars are visible in the dark and they're invisible in the light, So, and it's about universal awareness and recognition of the soul beyond the body. So we start thinking in terms of I am a soul and I have a body, rather than I am a body and I have a soul. And then we go to the moon here, which is radiant darkness, and the key is intuitive psychic ability. It has rules sleep and meditation, and cycles, seasons, reflection, and it's a reflection of greater light. So it's the recognition of the soul as a point of light, and then the recognition of something greater light. And the soul power is the power to face and the power to merge. And then eventually the soul, the sun, is actually finding the ancestral light, or the beginnings, the source. And it's a marriage to the source, if you like. So it's the complete understanding and remembering of truth. And the path is a marriage to greater light. For example, you have Shiva and Parvati, which is radiant bliss. And it's the bliss of merging. After that happens, there's a thing called judgment, and the judgment is the Dharamraj. It's when you're actually facing all the things that you've done in your life and all the different kinds of karmas that you've had to face. And it's the shedding of karma. So it's learning how to shed karma, which causes liberation of the soul. And the path is ascension, flying, shape-shifting, and the soul power is it's realizing that we have divinity, and the soul power is the vision of deity. That instead of being at just human, that we do have deity within us as well, but it means that we can actually stretch for that. So then eventually when the world changes, then you're in a position where you're living in a different space, and sometimes there's a lot of kind of destruction and reconstruction that happens with the world. And then you have the moksha, or the Tarana. So when I was in India, I kept seeing all these arches everywhere, and I was wondering what these arches were, and they were usually, you'd go to a sacred place through the arch, under the arch. And the key here is liberation to the soul home, out of karma. And it's about pure divine love, it's about world elevation and world power of completion, rather than just our own soul power of completion. That's just a major arcana as I understand it now, from reading the Vedas. Then of course you've got the material world, which we have the different cards for that. So, and then the court cards. So the court cards are really between one and the other. So you have the pages. They usually flounder around, gather knowledge. Look for knowledge, flirtatious. They're sort of flirting with life, if you like. And then going from the pages to the knights find direction, so they're able to find a direction with what they have to do. And then of course there are different kinds of directions, so it depends whether it's to do with the will, whether it's to do with the emotion, whether it's to do with the intellect, or or protection. It's the different cards that you have. The cups are usually the emotions, to do with the emotions. And then you have the wands, which are to do with willpower, and the swords to intellect. And then I use shields, because in the Vedas, of course, they had the shields. They weren't making coins at that time. But according to how protective the clans were, they needed the shields, for protection during any kind of warrior type stuff. They actually, that was their wealth, was to be able to protect themselves. So we could take this one down now. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Then we have, okay, so the court cards, the pages flounder around, they're looking for direction, they don't have direction. They're young, Then you have the knights who find a direction, they have their horses, so they're going in their direction. And then the queens establish themselves, and the kings have dominion. So, like if you were starting a business, for example, you would gather all the information that you want to start that business. Then you would have the direction and where to go. And then you have the establishment of it, and then how it grows beyond that, so it would be the dominion then, the dominion of it. And so that's really, when we're reading the cards, once you have the mandala like this, and then you do a complete mandala, there, like if you have one of these on both sides and one below and one above, you interlock them all. Then you have the past, the present, the future, or possible future, because it depends on what changes we make in our present, you know, that can actually dictate what the future is and what karma we're working with. And then I also realized that the balance of the situation was not just the physical balance of the corporeal one in the middle, but also the astral self, and the we have like three selves, you know, so you have it at different levels. So you have the corporeal self, and then you have the ethereal self, and then the astral self. And so we work according to that, and that keeps the balance of us here, you know. So, and that's all I can tell you really about the cards, unless I mean, it's one of those things where you sort of go on and on and on, and you can sort of like really get into it, and especially with the minor arcana as well, you know. But it would take days probably to go through it. So I wanted to try and do something with the major arcana, because not many people really sort of go into the major arcana very deeply, I don't think, you know. So, and it was really good to actually have some of the spiritual knowledge that could go with it. And it's just years of meditation and traveling and being in different places. So that's about it, I think, really. I don't know what else to say. Any questions? Anybody want to ask any questions?
I have a question, actually.
Yes.
When you drew the cards, I never asked you which one had been your favorite.
My favorite card, I think, is actually the Temperance card, because it meant a lot to me at the time, and I learned a lot about it, and I think I really enjoyed that card more than anything. It's the adapting to a situation, because I was put into a situation where I had to adapt to everything, including all the restrictions that happen, you know, and then the freedom that happens after that. It's sort of, it's really something, having to deal with that, and probably especially, you know, because I was married to someone who was very famous, and suddenly, you know, I've got this whole thing of having to deal with that too. So I think Robin actually wrote a song with RJ actually as well, called "Don't Cry Alone," and I think that was right, that happened, because lots and lots of people, you know, were there, and especially Caitlin, she was a big help, and John, both big helps with me after that. But the cards, they tell stories, you know, they're storytelling. And if you really go into them, they're sort of like, they tell stories. And of course, I didn't even touch on the Om, you know, and the Hebrew, because I have them all in the different things. If you want to have a look at the books, you know, when I was doing them, I'll show you. I'll just pass them around and you can have a look. These were during the time that I was actually creating them. This is the minor arcana, so you can have a look at these if you like, or you want to put them up there.
For a change. Thank you.
And I've got some here on the major arcana. So if you want to look, and I see, this is so you can actually have a look at these. These are the originals, so, and those two there belonged in the beginning, but you can have a look at these. And I was doing one every night, so
Were you in
it was.
India when you created these?
Sorry?
Were you in India when you created these, or had you?
No, I just I started creating a tarot, a normal tarot card,
Yes.
and I didn't feel satisfied doing just the ordinary tarot cards, and then I decided to work with some of the knowledge that I had, you know, from all the travels, and it ended up being a Vedic tarot. So
I was going to ask about that because I know that you were thinking of another one.
Yes.
Is there a moment when you felt I must switch from that to this? Was there
Yes,
a moment when
there
you recognised it?
I was actually doing the fool. Strangely enough, I had the fool as a female in my tarot thing, and I had a cat, I think, instead of a dog or something. Then, but anyway, then I decided no, I want to do this differently, and so I started doing it differently. I might still do the other one at some point.
You should.
Dwina, how long does it take you to draw each illustration?
Each one that I was drawing, I would just draw it overnight. I mean, all night. And I'd draw and start painting. I was using inks and children's inks and children's paints and things, you know, because I like the bright, vibrant thing of the painting, you know. So I was just using anything I could get, really. I didn't go out and suddenly buy a whole pile of paints for it. And then, yeah.
I feel like we see many tarot creators in walk-ins, and everybody has their own. They start the journey of creating the deck,
Yes.
and they are one person.
Yeah.
At the end of that journey, something has moved inside of them. It's changed them.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had the same experience?
I was definitely changed by it. I think. First of all, it was very good for me to do it because I needed to get into a project, and it was also like discovering parts of the self, you know, and discovering. I went to art college. I learned everything except art at art college. I'm sorry. I mean, it was at the time of the 60s and 70s, you know, 70s, and of course everyone was, you know, they were all enjoying themselves with flower power and everything. I think I was selling Oz on the somewhere in the, you know, it was crazy, a crazy sort of time, and I remember. I was good friends with Heathcote Williams, who was a poet, and I remember going to see something that he had on at the upstairs theatre because I like to write things as well. And I was sitting there, and everyone was smoking in the theatre. It was really strange, you know. I wasn't smoking at the time, and I turned around, and I think it was Alf Garnett was beside me, and he was passing a joint along the line. You know, I couldn't believe it. It was like, whoa, what? So it was at the time of the 60s and 70s when, you know, the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s, and everything was a lot of fun, you know, but everybody was traveling everywhere, and we learnt about everything except the real rudiments of art, and I wanted to do pen and ink drawings, but I had to choose between whether I was going to make big aluminium structures, you know, which I did do actually at art college, or you had to choose between some kind of, I don't know, I wasn't really interested in painting apples and stuff, you know, and I wanted to paint from the imagination, and there was no real avenue there for that, and so I think this is it as well, you know, doing all these drawings and paintings, and I was always interested in sort of fairy tales and things like that, you know. In fact, I won art competitions from a very early age, and we used to get, it was for the Brook Bond tea competitions, and every time that I won a competition I got a monkey. You know, because they did the Brook Bond tea monkey ads at the time, and so I got a chimpanzee and a book token, and with the book tokens I would get on the bus and I'd go all the way to Enniskillen where they had halls. It was the only bookshop there, and I started buying sort of Enid Blyton, Noddy and Big Ears. It's in the beginning, and then and then after that it was Grimm's fairy tales, you know, and after that it was mythology books on mythology, and then some spiritual books, you know. So that was how my life went, really, and now it's all culminating in something else. So.
Which we can see on the big picture behind you,
Yes.
is what's in the margins, because you have linguistic and musical.
Oh yes, I had the music things, because the musical notes are to do with the chakras. So, in actual fact, I've written about it. I think in the, I don't know where it is now, big one.
Oh, it's here.
This one here. But I have written in here. Anybody can look at this if they want. But you see, for example, on the sides here, I've got the Om. So this is a grove. This means a grove. The Om is the old Irish language. When it's spelled with O-G-H-A-M, the G and the H are silent, so it's like Om. But the very old way, I think, wasn't there another way of spelling it, like the O-G-A-M, I think, was the Ogham.
We used to have the Shev, which you put the
on
dot
the top
over the G, and you'd know to pronounce it that way.
Yes.
But since typography came in,
Yes.
it was very difficult to type it on the typewriter,
Yes.
so you put an H next to the letter, so
Yes.
G-H became silent.
Yes, yes, that's right. It becomes silent. So, for example, I've got all the ones here, and so it's on the sides. And I mention it in the book, you know, it sort of talks about it. So this is the grove. So it's in this here, it's like the palace or prison of the womb, according to what your karma is, you know. And then I have here, which is the Aleph, which is the, of course, I've got Aleph on all of these because this is the first letter of the alphabet. So, and then here is Beth, you know, or Beith. You see, Beith is the Irish one, which is the birch, which is the white. And after the Ice Age, the birch came back and was one of the first trees that came back after the Ice Age. So it's the beginning of the kingdom, if you like, you know.
And
So,
the letters of the Ogham are
and Beth
associated
means
with
house.
trees, aren't they? The letters of the Ogham are associated with trees, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's the tree alphabet, the Irish tree alphabet. The Irish tree alphabet is very similar to the Greek alphabet, the Phoenician alphabet, you know, the Hebrew alphabet. They're all the same. Like if you have Aleph, Beth, and you've got Aleph, Beith in the Irish. So they're all it's all the same signs in the alphabet. So I've used these, and of course they mean certain things. Like this is protection. So each card has one of the Om things, and then they've got the, like here you've got Yod, which is the hand of guidance, which is the hermit, you know, guides the soul through the dark forest or on the top of the mountain or whatever, you know. So it's the guidance, the touch, the guidance. And then, like some of the others, let me see, I've got the Rowan, which is protection. That's Luis, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce all of these. The holly, that's to do with the fertility cycles. Well, the holly and the mistletoe, the holly, the red berries of the holly represented the female menses cycle, you know, and the white berries of the mistletoe were the male sperm. So that was to do with the fertility cycles. So the holly and the ivy. I'm not sure about the ivy. The ivy actually is a very important one because the ivy, even lots of people cut down ivy from trees. I have 2 oak trees that are 800 years old, and the reason that they're living is because of all the ivy on them. It protects them. But also the ivy had flowers at different times of the year when insects usually have no food, so they actually eat the flowers and they eat the things of the actual ivy. So these are all here. So each one of these has got and an explanation. It's got the actual alphabet letter and the explanation. So, for example, this one here is Kaf, which is the back of the head. That's the Hebrew. But also, I've linked it with the Kabbalah as well. So the Kabbalah has quite a lot to do with it. And this is where they're meditating. Reflective.
And how about the music? How about the music? How does the music?
And the music. Well, the music, the actual signs of the music affect the chakras in the body. So, for example, let me see. Some of them I have instruments. In all the minor arcana, I just have instruments. In the major arcana, I have the actual notes. So the notes will actually do things. For example, let me see. This here is the E natural, for example, on this one, which is strength. And E natural has the ability, the sound of E natural, in E, in the old Irish, E actually meant wretched, believe it or not. And it's taking you from a wretched place to a place of joy. So when you hear that note, it changes your attitude, because it affects whatever chakra is in the body. And the heart chakra, of course, is another one. This is G sharp, which is the throat chakra. So when you hear that G sharp, it opens the throat chakra. The interesting thing is that when we sleep, the throat chakra is used because when we close our eyes and go to sleep, then the throat chakra opens and paralyzes the body. It doesn't necessarily paralyze the body, but it makes it weightier so that it stays in one place. So if you're dreaming of running, you're not going to run. Your body's kept in that position of sleep. And so there are certain things with the throat chakra open for singing as well. So the solar plexus and the throat chakra, there are certain notes. And then there were certain notes that were used for torch songs that Haydn and Mozart used, and which Robin used for torch songs, even though he didn't know he was using them because he didn't read music. So none of the brothers read music, but yet they made music, they were all self-taught, and they made music that affected the world, so. Anyway, so that's the music and the notes. So if you look at all of these, like for example this one here, just trying to see here. Oh, this one here is some of them are enharmonics. Is it enharmonic?
Enharmonic.
Enharmonic. So they have, like for example, the A sharp and B flat are the same note. And that has an effect. When you hear that particular note, it has an effect on one of the different chakras, something to do with the solar plexus. So, anyway, that's all of it. I've written most of it in the book, so you can actually sort of see what they do and how they correlate with each other.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?